Welcome to another YouTube live event here on timecrafting.tv, the productivityist YouTube channel. It's me, Mike Vardy. A little bit different lighting here today. I've got the live Instagram feed going. They're going to get camera 2. You guys are getting camera 1. This is a bit of a unique YouTube live this time around because it's not being done in the daytime, at least not where I live. In fact, it's being done as I gear into partly my most creative time of the day, and that's the nighttime. If you're watching this live on the East Coast, hey, look who's here. It's Dom. Hey, Dom. Great to see you. And by the way, I'm going to be actively participating in the chat, so if you have questions, anything that you want to ask about Night Owl productivity, feel free to throw them in there. Yeah, I know we haven't seen each other in a little while. It's been a very hectic time, but lots going on. And I'll be sure to chime in, a little bit later with what we've got going on. But this is what I want to share with you today. Something a little bit new, a little bit different. It is 12 a.m. in the Eastern time zone. That's right. I'm looking at Nats Mundo on Instagram. That's right. I would actually still be up at 12 a.m. in the Pacific Coast, in Pacific time. I'm normally up till about 1, sometimes even 2. And that's because I am a night owl. I'm unapologetic about it, and that's why. So if you are up right now watching this live in the Eastern time zone, you're a night owl. If you're up at 9 p.m. Pacific time zone, you're either winding down for the day or maybe you're gearing up like I am. You're hitting your stride. Yeah, Mike Tremblay is here as well. Yeah, just hitting your stride. I am a total night owl, and I believe that night owls are completely underserved when it comes to the kind of content that they should get about being productive. And that's why I wanted to put on this YouTube live today. There's a real stigma around being a night owl. The idea that you have to be up at 5, 6 a.m. in the morning to make sure you get the most out of the day. I don't believe that at all. I think there are some health benefits that you can see when you are a bit more of a morning person. There's been some studies around that, but I see often a lot of studies that kind of put night owls in a negative light. And I'm a big believer in following your body clock. And I'm going to show you some resources that I have here that also illustrate that. But I want to let you know that if you're a night owl, it's great. Be a night owl. Embrace it. Because the way that our body clocks have worked is that there are a certain percentage of people that are just wired to be night owls. I happen to be one of them. And I want to share with you today how I work and give you some tools and tips. And if you have questions, we can have an open Q&A about how to be more productive in the evening. To start things off, I'm going to share with you a little story about this time that I was on a panel with a bunch of confirmed early risers. In fact, I'm going to show you a resource of one of these early risers in a little while here. But it was myself, Hal Elrod, who wrote The Miracle Morning, Laura Vanderkam, who wrote What the Most Successful People Do Before Breakfast, Craig Jarrow, my friend Craig Jarrow, who is the time management ninja, and it was moderated by my friend Dan Gold. And Dan asked me to be on the panel because he knew I was a night owl, and he knew everybody else was not. And Dan posed the question, when do you get your most important tasks done? Like, when do you get the big tasks done? And like, how do you start your day? And a lot of the questions I remember hearing, Craig said he started his day at 5 a.m. and tackled the day. Then there was Laura, who I think said she was starting her day at about 7, but I think she just had a child, so things were a bit weird for her at that point in time. And then Hal said he started his day at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then Dan asked me when I started my day, and I said I don't get really going until 10 o'clock. And then he said, well, when do you get all the stuff that they do, when they start their day? And I said, I get it done the night before. So as Mike says in the chat, he's just hitting his stride. Anyone who's watching on Instagram Live, if you want to be a successful night owl, you can't wait until the next day to get the stuff done that others are doing early in the day. You have to do it the night before. So I will be working on creative work the night before because that's when I'm at my best. In the mornings, I'm doing those low energy kind of tasks, the admin tasks, the things that early risers tend to do later in the day when they're running out of steam. And the reason you have to kind of balance it that way is because willpower, and our energy, both of those things, attention, all that stuff that feeds that, it's a resource that peters out throughout the course of the day. Yes, you can trigger some growth with it by doing exercise, going for a walk, taking naps, and then other stimulants such as caffeine and that. But the bottom line is that we only have a renewable amount, we only have a certain amount throughout the day, that you can only kind of raise it up certain percentages. Sleep is what really renews it, right? So I know that I'm at my best later in the day. And so I'm going to do the tasks that require little energy, little focus, little attention earlier in the day, because I know that when I'm at my best later in the day, it's best for me to have as much attention, focus, and energy in those later day hours. So right now, this has got just straight up soda water in it right now. Yeah, I'm basically using it for prop purposes. But this mug, which says, "What good have I done this day?" It's basically filled with soda water right now. Nothing else, no caffeine, no nothing. And that's because earlier in the day I did have my coffee and I have had tea, but I'm not sitting in the evening hours. I'm not sitting there priming myself with caffeine. I don't need it. At this point, I'm ready to go. And it's on a Friday night. So this is kind of, it's really strange that, on a Friday night, if I'm at home, I can get some real work done. If I go out Friday night, I'm raring to go. I'm at my best. In fact, let's talk about some of the resources that talk about like embracing your body clock. Here's the first one. This book's called The Power of When by Dr. Michael Bruce. He's been on my show before, my podcast, and I have, if you take a look at it right here, I've dog-eared it quite a bit. He talks about the idea of your chronotype, and what that means is like, where are you more of an early riser? Are you more of a diurnal, like a middle of the day person? Are you more of a night owl? Or he calls one group in here a dolphin, which is kind of people who have problems sleeping and can't get a good solid amount of hours of sleep in a consistent manner. I'm paraphrasing here. This is a great book to pick up because it doesn't stigmatize anybody. It doesn't say, hey, if you're not an early riser, then you're not going to be productive. It doesn't say, hey, if you're a night owl, then you're going to be better at staying up and doing certain things. Like it basically goes through the science around this, about chronotypes. And I found out that I'm a wolf. That's what Dr. Bruce calls it. He says, you're a wolf. So, and he's a wolf as well. One thing that does happen over time is that as you get older, you do tend to naturally get up earlier and go to bed earlier. And that's just the way you age. But I don't think I'm ever going to be that early in the morning 5 a.m. person. I have noticed as I'm getting older that, my propensity to stay up till 2, 3 in the morning isn't there. But I'm still rock solid till midnight, 1 a.m., right? So this is, if you really want to, no matter whether you're a night owl or a morning person or whatever, if you just want to understand this better, out of all the books I've read on the subject, this is the one that I like the best, because it not only goes, hey, here's what your chronotype is, but it gives you discussion points about when you should do certain things based on your chronotype. So I would recommend that if you're a night owl and you want to validate your choices about being a night owl, number one, but also figure out, hey, maybe when are the best times of day for me to do certain things? The Power of When is a book to look into. And I mean, I could tell you that for me, exercise is better in the early part of the evening. In fact, here's my wolf daily schedule, and you can see I've kind of highlighted it a bit. Now let's get this back. I've highlighted it a little bit, and you can adjust it too. So it's not a hard and fast thing either. So I would say that The Power of When is probably the best book that you could pick up. So if you're looking at picking up a book, I'm going to point to Instagram now, but if you're looking to pick up a book about, chronotypes and being a night owl and being okay with being a night owl, then right now I'm saying that this is the book you should pick up. Another book that's great about, knowing when to do what and the scientific secrets of perfect timing is Daniel Pink's When. Now, I have not read this as deeply as Dr. Bruce's book, primarily because Dr. Bruce has been on my podcast and Daniel Pink has not, though I would like to have him on my podcast at some point. Daniel Pink's written many great things. When this book came out, I noticed it and I wanted to pay attention to it. But the idea, again, this is not a book that says you better be an early riser, you better be this, you better be that. It says, here's, based on who you are, here's what you should be doing. So again, When is another great resource. And these books are productivity books as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely productivity books. Another book that I like that I've just picked up recently, and the co-author, John Zaratsky, is going to be on my podcast shortly, is Make Time. And what I like is there's a part in here that one of the other authors, Jake Knapp, talks about his nighttime being a highlight time. So He says we're genetically predisposed to be either morning people or night people. And he says the basis is not on science, but on firsthand observation of his sons conducted over the past several thousand days. And it's true. Like there's experience that can lend itself to this. So he realized that instead of trying to fight his body clock, and that's one of the tenets of time crafting, don't fight your body clock. He said, I'm going to just be a better nighttime person. And that's what I am doing as well. So if you want to be a better nighttime person, there's some tactics in here that can help you. But I think that's the goal. The goal isn't to be an amazing morning person if you're not a morning person. That is a battle that is going to be hard to win, right? It's much better for you to say, you know what, I'm a night owl. I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to lean into it. Now, how do you do this if you have a 9-to-5 job? Again, this is where time crafting can come into play, theming your times, working by modality. I talk about this in my upcoming book, as well as, I've talked about this on my blog and in other videos as well. How to be productive when you're tired is a YouTube video I've shared. If you look through the channel, you're going to find that I've offered a lot of advice on this. So here's my thought. If you are a morning person, right, then you want to do your high energy tasks early in the day and your low energy tasks later in the day, right? You just swap that if you're a night owl. So you should be doing your low energy tasks early in the day and your high energy tasks later in the day. And realistically, all you need to do is just grab a couple of Post-it note like pads. If you want to figure out what are early and what are late, go, hey, you know what? These are early tasks, morning tasks. So these are all my low energy ones, and just go crazy with them, or just write them out all on one sheet of paper. And then on another series of Post-it notes, write down these are the ones that like green for go, or whatever color you want. It doesn't matter. The point is that high energy and low energy, separate those tasks. Dan Norton is here. Dan is past midnight. I know you are. So there you go. It's really great. It's actually good morning for you, I guess, technically, Dan. Great to see you here. But the point is that if you can start to use your energy levels and leverage that, then you're going to pick the right tasks to do early in the day, right? And then you're going to be able to do your tasks that you're better suited to do later in the day. Like Dan's a great example. Dan, I know Dan does great video work. I'm betting, and also I know Dan has kids as well, as do I. So during the daytime, I'm more predisposed. And there we go. Gary's on Instagram right now too. Thanks, Gary. I'll give you a little wave there. But I know that in the mornings, I'm not going to be great dealing with kids, getting up in the morning, doing all that stuff. But once the nighttime hits, my kids are in bed. Right now, my son is ready for bed. He's actually in bed right now, reading. My daughter's hanging out in her room. She doesn't want to be around me right now, right? Unless she apparently is watching me on Instagram. But the point is this is my time. My wife is tired. She's watching TV. If she was here, she's not here right now, but that's normally what happens. But once 11 o'clock hits, everyone's in bed. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and I can lean in hard. And here's the best part. I also know I'm not going to get any interruptions. Between 11 and 1, if someone sends me an email, I'm not responding to that email. I'm not responding to that email at all. And if you've read another book, which I don't have with me, but I encourage you to read Daily Rituals by Mason Curry, you should see some of the people that do their work late in the evening, either people that are in history or current people that are much greater at doing it later in the evening. So to say that, oh, it's great to get all those big things done early in the morning, if you're a morning person, have at her. And I'm not here to convince morning people that you should become a night owl. All I'm doing is saying, if you are a night owl, own it, embrace it, be okay with it, right? Don't feel like there's a stigma attached to it. And if there is, bust through those biases, right? It's okay. And so for me, the other things that I look at is, if you're a miracle morning person, I mentioned Hal Elrod earlier, this is a good resource for night owls too. It's really strange. We can call it excellent evening for us. But this is a good resource because you can take everything Hal talks about in this book, the savers, all that stuff, and apply it to whenever you get up in the morning. Dave Asprey, who's the founder of Bulletproof, he starts his day famously. I remember him saying this once. It might have even been in a conversation we were having. He starts his day at 10 a.m., right? His plan is to live to 180, right? He's listening to his body clock. Hal and I had this conversation years ago as well, where we said, you know what, like Hal, I'm not a morning person. And he said, he goes, but when you do get up, right? You can still do this when you get up, 10 a.m., 9 a.m., whenever that is, right? So to me, that's the key. Is if you have a routine, whether it's using the Miracle Morning stuff, whether it's any kind of morning routine, and here's another great book. This is the advanced copy when I had, Benjamin Spall, Michael Zander, My Morning Routine. You can go through this and get tons of ideas for morning routines, but when is your morning? That's what matters. And by the way, there's a great site called Evening Routines. I think it's Evening Routines, or My Evening Routine, and I've done one for them. I'm a big believer that the evening routine is just as, if not more important than the morning routine. Because whether you're a night owl or a morning person, having a great way to close out the day sets you up for the next day. So if you are a morning person, then locking down your evenings by journaling, setting up your breakfast for the next day, making a plan for the next day, doing those things, no matter what time of day you go to, you call it a night. And there's some people that go to bed at 9 p.m., right? And then you get up the next day, you can hit the ground running. For a night owl, it's really important to do that evening routine because you want to be able to wake up in the morning and kind of be pre-programmed what to do. I know I can get up in the morning and go, okay, where's my coffee? Boom. Okay, there's my shake. If you've watched my my morning routine video here on YouTube, you can see what my morning routine looks like. Great to see everybody, by the way, hanging out on Instagram as well, live watching this. So if you have questions, comments, and I'm seeing a lot come in, and I really do appreciate this on the YouTube live. That's kind of the plan. If you are in fact, it was funny. I decided to do this video, and I thought, let's do this live because there's going to be some night owls watching. Maybe I should have said, you know what? There's probably not, because they're working. They're not going to be watching YouTube videos right now. They're going to be working. So if you're not watching this live and you're a night owl and you're saying, hey, you know what? I've got some thoughts. I've got some insights. Just throw them in the comments here because I'd love to be able to respond to them and interact with them after the fact. So one of the great things about being a night owl is the fact that there are some certainties surrounding it. On the West Coast right now, it's 9 p.m., or it's actually closer to 9:30 now. I know that there's nobody emailing me late at night here, and I certainly know there's nobody emailing me on the East Coast. But the other thing is it gives you the opportunity to possibly engage with some people that are in other parts of the world. Dan's got a point here. He says, I always feel like I'm doing things wrong since I'm more of a night owl. No. And that's the thing we have to break. Mornings are so hard at this stage in life. And you know what? I'm 45, going to be 46 this year. So mornings have never been easy for me. And here's an interesting thing. There's been some talk, and I've been compiling a lot of research because after Time Crafting comes out, the next book I really want to work on is the Night Owl book. In fact, if you've picked up Charlie Gilkey's Start Finishing, I have a whole little excerpt in there that I wrote related to being a night owl. Because Charlie's not a night owl. He said he wanted me to, could you offer that counterpoint? I said, sure. I've never been a night owl. And one of the funny things is as you look at school for teenagers, right? And what happened is as kids go to school, at least until they're in college, is kindergartens start later. Then as you get through school, middle school, my daughter started to go to school even earlier. My daughter's in high school now, and she's got to leave the house way earlier than any of us. And here's the thing, she's a teenager. As a teenager, you need more sleep, but you tend to stay up later. So it's kind of backwards. We live in this 9-to-5 world, largely, and it's geared towards that. So leveraging those later hours for night owls is really important, whether it's the post-lunch hours. And Don just mentioned he tried the 5 a.m. club, he ended up crashing early afternoon. That you can't fight your body clock. The wrong battle to fight. But here's the thing. Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. club book has lots of great points in there that you could apply at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. Mike says, how much is energy and how much is focus time? So many fewer interruptions at 2 a.m. when nobody's around to ping you. I think that there's some correlations between energy and focus, right? In fact, if I remember correctly, I was looking up the etymology for the word focus, and it was based on the hearth or the fire. And it was the reason that the from what I gathered from just, I love looking up word stuff, is that it was because the fire was at the center of the house. So it was a place where all the heat was focused. So people paid attention to it, right? And there was some energy coming from there. So there's some correlation there. But I think that because you are predisposed to know that there's going to be less interruptions there, that the focus feeds the energy and the energy feeds the focus. So while you might be, quote, physically tired, you're mentally not tired so you can mentally focus. I'm not somebody that's going to go for a workout late at night, for example, right, Mike? I'm not going to be that person, but I am going to be the person that's going to sit down and write, or maybe do this YouTube live right now. Mostly write though, because you're right. There's focus and there's no interruptions. So I think there's some correlations there. And that's some of the stuff I'm doing research for. Even though this next book, Time Crafting, is not out yet, I've been building that stuff up in the background because I think that there is a lot. And Dan mentioned this too, is that always felt that you're doing things wrong because you're not doing them in the morning, because you're doing them late at night. And that's a big problem. So we got a bunch of people on Instagram live watching too, which I think is great because it goes to show that there's some night owls on Instagram as well. So I think that again, when you're looking at all of these resources, and these are just a few of them. Again, the daily rituals one is great. I think that if you are a night owl, that what you need to do is you need to start using your to-do list in a way to kind of give you a clue as to when to do certain things, right? When is the best time to do certain things? You know what? One thing you could do, and I do this with energy levels for people when they're looking at their paper to-do list, is they'll do an up arrow next to the task for high energy and a low arrow for the low energy. If you're more looking at, hey, what's AM, what's PM, maybe you put like a sunshine, like a sun for the day tasks, and you put like a quarter moon for the moon tasks or something like that, or a white circle for the day of the time and a dark circle for the nighttime, something like that. That could be you want visual cues because the day moves on whether we want it to or not. And we often get caught up in just doing rather than being deliberate. So in this case, that's something you might want to try. If you've got a digital to-do list app, again, you can use AM and PM as like tags or labels. You know, hey, these are tasks I should do in the AM, and then these are ones that I should do in the PM based on the focus and or energy that you would need to give them to do into this. And by the way, if you are in charge of an organization, you need to keep this kind of stuff in mind as well. As an employer, you need to understand that there are some people that are just not going to be at their best before noon, right? And that's why if you have control over things like meetings, 9 a.m. meetings are probably not the best for both sides of that circadian clock, because the 9 a.m. people, you're hitting the people who are early. The only people that are really kind of done the big things are the people that are people getting up at 3, 4, 5 a.m., right? Your diurnal people, or the bears, as Dr. Bruce mentions, they only are really getting into things at 9 a.m. So they're still not, not quite there yet. And your night owls are barely awake if you're doing 9 a.m. meetings, okay? A better time to start thinking about meetings are between 10 and, like before lunch. After lunch is not good either, because then you're getting the people who were up really early, they're tired, they're not ready. But the reason that if you're going to do meetings, and I know when I worked at Costco for years, we did the meetings at 10 o'clock, not at 9. And the reason was because we need to get the store ready for opening, the warehouse ready for opening, and then at 10 o'clock it was open and things were running along very smoothly, okay? Same thing in your organization. If people show up at 9 a.m., then let them get into their day. Let them say, hey, you know what? We are going to, I've set up my plans for the day. If they know a meeting's at 10 o'clock, there's it's a certainty, then that's fine. So to me, I think that if you're someone that runs an organization, things like meetings, things like, one-on-one meetings, staff meetings, etc., you need to keep in mind the circadian rhythms. You need to keep in mind the body clock people as well. And if you're somebody who sets meetings and you're a night owl, you're actually better served to have those meetings, depending on what they are, again, not at 9 a.m., but at like 11 a.m., right? Or maybe just after lunch, because, our prime time really doesn't kick in until about 2. That's when we start, 2 and 4, right? So again, I want to stress that. That's pretty much all I have. I just wanted to share that, first off, this video is meant to say, hey, you're not alone. And I'm a pretty productive person. I hang my hat on that, and I'm more than willing. In fact, I champion the fact that I'm a night owl. And if you're a night owl, you should champion that too. Don't pay attention to the call of, oh, you should get up at 3 a.m., 5 a.m. Don mentioned it. He's tried the 5 a.m. club. I've tried to do 3 a.m. start times. I've even done experiments with sleep like Steve Pavlina did, where I was doing, the second sleep, which is what we used to do. We used to go to bed at 9, get up at 1, right, all the things that you would do in the those witching hours, right? And then go back to bed at 3, right? No, I can't do it. Our society has changed, right? But there will always be night owls, and that's something that you really shouldn't fight. You've got bigger battles to fight. Don't fight your body clock. Embrace being a night owl, and hopefully through this video you've gotten some ideas of how you can filter your tasks and the things you need to do, so that way you can be an effective night owl and a productive one, and then you won't have all of the stuff that comes with the stigma that gets attached to that, which is a completely unfair stigma. I am going to, yes, exactly. So I'm going to add this to, boom. I should really add, I'm still getting used to using Ecamm, so I'm adding these to the broadcast now. These are all going to show up at the end. I'll get better for next time. Ecamm is quite nice. Gary, yeah, exactly. When your son was under, took advantage of the second sleep. Yeah. And I am still, there we go. Let's close that. Oh, let's remove it. Aha. Little experiment at the end. Anyway, yes, Gary. When your son was on, yeah, and I mean, I think that what happened with my wife and I is when our kids were born is I would be the person that was, there we go. I was promised dancing. Why isn't there dancing? Thanks, Shane. Shane on Instagram. There we go. A little bit of. Anyway, my wife is more of the like she's not an early riser, but she's definitely not a night owl. So she would be the one that once 1 o'clock hit, I think it was, or 3 o'clock. Once 3 o'clock hit, I was the one that was supposed to get up. I didn't always get up. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't always get up, but that was kind of the deal that we had, right? So again, there's some balance that you can have there as well. I'm sorry for a little technical difficulty at the end there, but I was playing with something that Ecamm had. There you go, Shane. I did your dancing. All right. That's pretty much all that I have for today. I just wanted to share this with you. If you're a night owl, I want you to, and you weren't able to watch this live, let me know in the comments. If you are a night owl and watching, just say, let me know in the comments. Like this video. If you want me to do more stuff like this or talk more about night owl strategies, maybe talk more about circadian stuff and all that, I'm more than willing to. Let me know in the comments. I've had a really great time chatting today, putting this together on a Friday night. Won't happen very often, but this is what I did tonight for all of the night owls out here. Night Owls Unite. Thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Until then, keep moving things forward. Take care and good night.